I think doing less dentistry, more conservative dentistry that's safer, more efficient, uh, is not going to break, a patient's bank to get the care that they need.
This is Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast where we ask the question, what does growth in dentistry look like to you? I'm Katie Polson, a dental hygienist and your host. Welcome to Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast. I'm Katie Polson, and we have another special episode of our deep dive podcast with some awesome customers, patients. I finally switched over, you guys. Forever, when I first started dental intelligence, I would call everyone patients, like I just did, but now they're customers. I have a really hard time making that switch in my mind because my end person is not a patient anymore. It's a customer. But anyway, I did it. We are, for those of you that are first-time listeners, welcome to the show. We've got lots of information in our show. Go back and look. We've got a lot of these episodes where we bring on some of our top 10% of our practices and see how they are utilizing data and automation and having it make a difference in their practice. We bring on some KOLs or key opinion leaders in the industry and listen to some of the advice that they have on some of the problems that we're trying to solve in the industry. And then also some podcast episodes for DSOs or enterprise group practices. So something for everybody. If you are on Facebook and you like to hang out there, please join us in our Facebook Dental Intelligence community. We've got a good group of people there. We talk about lots of fun things. If you wouldn't mind going and rating and reviewing this podcast, it helps a ton to continue to bring the message of growth and analytics and automation to a larger audience. And then also lastly, if you are not a current customer of Dental Intelligence and you would like to be one, we have a special giveaway to those listeners to the show. If you go to get.dentalintel.net/podcast, you get $50 when you complete a demo. That link will also be in our show notes. So without further ado, I am so grateful to have Dr. Ben Iske from Bridgeport Family Dental in Nebraska with me. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So a little bit of background on it. So you're from Nebraska. How is the weather there? I'm freezing here in Utah. Are you freezing?
It feels like a first day of summer. It got above 40, I think, for the first time in a long time. So
I'm jealous.
All the snow and ice is melting and it feels like things are looking up.
Oh, well, that's good. It's not here. I think it was like 12 degrees this morning. So yeah. I'm jealous. And then his cute wife is a hygienist as well.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
We're a dental family.
Does it go beyond you two? Like, do you have like other family members who are dental?
No, I think we'll be the first generation of a dental family from either side. It'll be interesting to see where our kids.
Oh, they don't have a chance. They're going to be in it.
They might have to be.
Yeah. Did you guys meet before you both decided to go into dentistry? Or did that bring you together?
It was a common thread, but we met after we had both been in dentistry for a while. We got married 3 years ago.
Oh.
So she was a hygienist in Oregon and I was here in Nebraska. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's a good story. So tell us, I guess that gets us off a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended in Nebraska and dentistry, and why are you a dentist in this crazy world?
Yeah, I think a lot of ignorance into what I was getting into in the first place was probably helpful in a lot of ways. I was born and raised in Nebraska. I grew up just outside of Omaha, so in the more metro part of Nebraska, and went to dental school in Lincoln. And after dental school, I went to Texas, but I had known about this opportunity in Western Nebraska when I was in school. And I went to San Antonio for a year to do an AGD and then came out to where we are now in rural Nebraska.
Yeah.
Our town is about 1,500 people, farm and ranch community, just a lot of good people. And it's been very rewarding to build what we have built over the last 8 years.
Yeah. So yeah, that leads us into, I guess, your practice. So you started the practice or bought it from somebody? What was the?
Yeah, I bought this practice from the doctor that had been here for, I think, almost 40 years. So it was well established in town. And in this area, we have more and more patients that aren't from our town. So we draw from a pretty wide area, up to 80 or 90 miles away.
Wow.
And so we had a very good structure for kind of getting my feet under me as far as running a business and what private practice, everyday dentistry look like, coming from school and from the VA, which is a great experience, but it's not.
Yeah, when nobody
it's not the real world. Yeah.
Pay for their services. It's easy to do a lot of dentistry when you're like, sure, just when they just say yes to everything. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, tell us a little bit about your experience at the VA and how that, like, because we talked a little bit about that in our conversation before. I think it's helpful for those listeners that might, still be in dental school or just getting out,
Yeah.
because you are, I mean, if you are serving, or patients, gosh, you guys, I finally did it and now I can't get it out of my head. Patients within an 80-mile radius of you, I mean, you're it for them. So that can be a little bit kind of lonely, I would imagine, but and intimidating. So tell us a little about your experience there and how it prepared you for your situation that you're in now.
I think that year would have definitely changed how I practice here, what we were able to do. And like you said, if you're essentially it for a long way, that can either really scare you and intimidate you, or for me that year in San Antonio and the things that I just had my eyes open to and the possibilities of dentistry made me a lot more confident in what I wanted to be doing and what was possible. I guess kind of out on an island out here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I'm sure, I don't know about, I mean, I feel like dentistry can be really lonely for specific, and it can feel like you're, again, especially if you're out there on your own. And so by having mentors and people that you can call on when you have a question or reach out to them, or, not feel like you're on an island all on your own, for sure.
Yeah. I feel like that's something that's changed too for me, just the kind of education and things that I learned about in San Antonio. But I mean, since I've gotten out of school, we have the ability to get so much education no matter where you live, and taking advantage of that is really has been advantageous to me, where I don't want to necessarily travel all the time to go to CE. And you can find pretty much all of the information that you want.
Yeah, this COVID era has
a lot of
bad things, but that is definitely one of them, is access to education at easier at your fingertips, for sure.
Definitely.
So I guess what makes I would say we might have already touched on this about what makes your practice unique because you are in a different space. But what challenges do you? Well, first of all, yeah, what makes your practice unique? If there's anything else in addition, and then if not, then we'll talk about the challenges that you currently face.
Um, we talked about this in our meeting yesterday because I wanted to ask everybody else what they thought. And one of the main things that I heard back from our team was that our team gets along really well and everybody functions together, but also in their own lane well. And we're still improving on that. But I think patients, when they come in, can tell and sense that people are having fun working here. People are out and for their best interest. And I think for us, doing the right thing, and in a small town like this, you don't really have you don't have a cover. So if we do something that's not going to sit right with somebody, I'm not going to be able to go to the grocery store and not run into that person or have, any sort of way to avoid that. So it goes back for us to, do the right thing, even when it's not easy, and just being honest with patients about, it's much more easy for us to be honest with somebody and let them come to terms with whatever that means for them than, try to pull the wool over their eyes. So having the patient's best interest in mind and doing the right thing, making things right, when we don't get it right, and taking that as part of a learning opportunity. I think those types of things have really set us apart from other practices in our area.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that you included your team in that question, because sometimes you get when you own it, you've got your opinion of it. And I love that it shows a lot of what kind of practice you run, that you value your team's opinion on what does make us different. That's awesome. So, what challenges are you guys currently facing? I mean, a lot of people are kind of facing the same challenges right now.
Yeah.
But what are you guys doing, and how, I guess, are you trying to overcome them?
Well, if you would have asked me a year ago, we would have been dealing with having a full team and having a stable, table full of people when you show up to work on Monday. And we've been really fortunate to do that in the last 8 months, and to focus on other areas. So I think recently, with what we talked about, like with the weather and illnesses over the winter months, the schedule has changed.
Having a hard time with
every day.
Cancellations.
Yeah, so it's been difficult, and I mean, I say it's difficult, but our administrative, they've been amazing. And I think what we'll get into later, but I mean, dental intelligence and Medento, being able to get a short list or get quick access to who can we call, who can we text, send out a mass message to people to get in, and that's really helped. And I think those things, cancellations, and maybe old habits of doing things when we have uh, so many resources at our fingertips now that we're still learning the nuances of,
Mhm.
oh, we can use follow-ups for this, or we can use Medento to do
Something else, yeah.
that, and we don't have to print out, a ream of paper and highlight things and write on it. It's all there and it's all trackable by whoever logs in, not just one person. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
you're not alone with that. It's change management. It's hard to retrain and redo things, especially when you're a busy practice, when you want to, it's just easier to do, even if it does take more time to do it the way that instead of relearn how to do something and then do it. It just
yeah,
it just takes time and practice. I mean, we're human. We want to do the things that come easy to us, even if it means that it takes more time. So it's just a matter of
yeah,
relearning. You're not alone in that. I mean, even in my practice and practices across the country, I don't have times that somebody implements a software or some new, you know, some new feature or something, even if it's a new matrix or whatever, it's like,
mhm,
oh, now I got to relearn how to use this. And sometimes it can be totally uncomfortable. I
yeah.
want to go back to, although it might not be a challenge you're facing currently, it is for everyone is staffing shortages and trying to
Oh
struggle
yeah.
with that. And
Hmm.
because you feel like you're not in a place anymore where that's a challenge, I think it could be really valuable on how you overcame that, understanding that it might just be it took time to get somebody in the right chair. And if that's it, then how did you deal with the emotional toll and whatever it took to get to that point? Because everyone is there and it can be really daunting.
Yeah, I remembered hearing, I think it was a meeting we were at the end of 2021, that there was like a 40,000 hygienist shortage in countrywide. And I was like, that doesn't sound good. And little did I know that we would be right in the middle of figuring out that that was probably about accurate not
Mhm.
too long after that. So, um, yeah, so we had gone from one hygienist for my first probably 5 or 6 years here, and then we were needing to hire another. And that second hygienist position was kind of a rotating chair for a while. And my wife uh, was a full-time hygienist, and then she slowed down to go back to school and have a baby. And
Mhm.
we thought a few different times that we had uh, that position filled, and things changed again. Um, and we were very, very lucky to hire two new graduate hygiene students
Mhm.
last May. And like I told you last week, there's only 4 students in that class that's in Western Nebraska, and we hired two of them. So, and I don't even know how many other offers they would have had.
Yeah.
I bet it was
How did you get
every,
um, why did they choose you, do you think? Because I'm sure they have probably had a lot of offers in that space.
yeah, I think for the first hire that we had mutual friends and mutual acquaintances, and then just being able to sit down and talk with them about our philosophy
Mhm.
and the importance of taking care of each other, and also how we approach taking care of patients, that we're not going to compromise quality of care to get a certain number of people in the door, uh, or a certain dollar amount. Um, and I think going back to the education that I got in San Antonio and wanting to help two brand new hygienists start their careers and give them opportunities to learn maybe in a more low pressure environment than a lot of other places. And the opportunity to learn things that they definitely weren't taught in school, not by me, by other more qualified teachers and continuing education and things like that. But yeah, taking care of, letting them know that they would be taken care of, kind of, you know, as they learn how
To
to
become
be hygienists. Yeah.
I know.
And
Mhm.
kind of just taking that stress or pressure off of them to help them get the right start.
That's great. Yeah, that's great advice too for those that are listening to have a hygiene school close to you. You know, if you, I'm sure that at this point they're getting a lot of offers, and for I think a lot of people, money. It's. I mean, it would be nice to get paid the most amount, but I think they need to be paid fairly. But also, but in conjunction with that, is just not feeling like I'm gonna come into this really busy practice and then I'm gonna be all on my own. You know, and have some crazy expectations because that is more important than a lot. I mean, they hear the average hygienist goes through 7 practices before they end at a practice that they might stay at. Um, so let you just be the first one, and they don't want to leave, right? Right.
And I mean, they both drive. One of them drives over an hour to get here, and the
Wow.
other one drives 40 minutes. So, and I brought that, I bring that up with them often.
Yeah.
Like, how are you doing with this
Travel. Yeah.
commute? And how is it going for you? Because you're doing a great job and we want to have you here, but I want to make sure that you're doing okay
Yeah. Because that's a
with 2 hours in the car every day.
gosh.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's just another thing that we're very fortunate to have. I mean, it's not easy to build trust and loyalty to where somebody's going to sign up to drive that far
Sure.
every day.
That takes time too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That says a lot about that practice, about your practice, and also the culture that you've created there, that people would want to drive that far to
Yeah.
because I'm assuming that they're passing at least a couple of them that offered them a job. So yeah.
Yeah. One, the one that drives over an hour, her house is 3 blocks from another office and she drives here. So
Wow.
we're
Right.
we're
Yeah.
very lucky.
Well, let's get into some of the metric. I mean, it sounds like we really kind of covered like the culture of your practice. We get a good idea, and oftentimes that is what bleeds into why your metrics are so great. But one of the things that I'd love, and because you are in a practice that started 40 years ago, and you take it over,
Mhm.
some of these things might, some of the metrics that you have might be difficult to turn around. And one of them that was really easy, that was good, was the hygiene reappointment rate, which would be kind of hard to turn around at the beginning of getting people in the habit of making their 6-month appointment and at their, and keeping it and that kind of thing. So a month over month, like your future visits and your active patients have just grown. And I partially because you're getting people back on the schedule.
Yeah.
But the practice has grown so much since you took it on. Obviously, you need another hygienist.
Mhm.
But talk to us a little about that growth, and what do you think? What are you attributing it to? Because I mean, that practice has been there for 40 years. So
Yeah, I think when I bought the practice and we went over, like, this is how much it's valued at, this is how many patients we have, this is our collections. It's like all handwritten on a piece of paper from a report on, wherever it came from. And it's kind of like, well, I can trust that, all that all sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
And then getting started for the first few years and trying to figure that out, but then starting with dental intel where, okay, I'm not guessing that our collections are pretty good. Like, this is the percentage.
Right.
This is our percent reappointment rate. This is our accounts receivable. And that was eye-opening to me because I remember I worked with a practice consultant and she gave me a practice report from Dental Intelligence. And she said, I'm concerned about your accounts receivable. And I was like, what do you mean? We do really well with that. And she said, you have like $25,000 in your accounts receivable over 90 days. And I was like, where did you find that? Because on our reports, it says that we have like nothing. And she said, well, let me show you this. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the start for me of when you see the real numbers, there's no wiggle room. It's good or it's bad or improving or declining. And I think that's also a kind of leveler for the team. If somebody is in charge of a certain area and they think they're doing pretty good, but the numbers are telling us something else, you can't really get, ration your way out of what are you doing to get better or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that having, especially going through them month by month, they're seeing them in the morning huddle. It's just so much easier to stay on track or to keep moving in the right direction as a team and being able to talk about those things.
So do you focus on, because this is kind of talking about change management and learning how to use something new.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that with your team? Do you focus on a certain measurement because we talk about when you focus on a measurement, that measurement will improve, right? And so do you do that one by one? How do you decide on what you're going to focus on and make better?
Yeah, I found it easier to work on one thing or a few things at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, take for instance, the hygiene reappointment rate.
Mm-hmm.
I think up until maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we would still send patients postcards after they left or like a month before they were due for hygiene to schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another thing that I just didn't really know how it would work best in a private practice until
that you are in. Yeah.
somebody said, you should never let a patient leave without having another appointment made.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that makes a lot more sense than trying to send out paper postcards that people get and remember and don't lose. And not letting those patients slip through the cracks, like not just for our own comfort and practice flow, but it's better for the patients.
Their health. Yeah. Yeah.
So getting them back on the schedule in 6 months before they leave, and then you couple that with text reminders, email reminders, things like that, it keeps patients from from slipping through the cracks.
Mhm.
And you can see, I felt like something that dental intelligence has helped us with too is the unscheduled patients, or the patients that are past due, and the spinning wheel of trying to get that
The
number
wheel
to
of
go
death.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah, the wheel of death has been on the forefront of a couple of our ladies' minds, and they're competing with themselves to get that number to go down and down and down. So,
Which just, I mean, there's two ways to grow your practice, right? There's new patients. There's so many levers. There's only so many levers you can pull. Or there's,
right.
retarget the people that have already been in your practice. And it just seems so much easier to contact the ones that you've already established that rapport with, and
Yeah.
go after new patients. And so
Yeah.
many people have, so especially in an established practice like that, 40 years. I mean, that's a lot of people that were in that system
Mhm.
that you bought, right?
Yeah.
That just
Yeah.
reactivate.
That's definitely something that we've talked about is, okay, what's more, what's a better idea, to go out and try to find 200 new patients that have never been here,
Mhm.
or contact 100 patients that are in the system already that just haven't been in the last 2 years?
Yeah.
And yeah, we'd have to go a long ways probably to find 200 new patients that have never been here.
Right.
So
It'd be coming
yeah,
from 180 miles away, not just
yeah,
80. So
yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, let's switch gears a little bit to well, I want to talk about patient acceptance percentage, and then we'll go back to some automation. But one of the things that I love to talk to practices that we're really good about is like treatment acceptance, because it's not just you giving them the treatment and telling, hey, this is what it is. Like good numbers. I've never seen really great numbers in this unless unless the entire team is on board. So I'd
Hmm.
love to pick through that, because and I'm just going to go through the numbers for people that have used dental intelligence or are aware of it. I'm going to go through Bed's numbers here. 80% patient acceptance percentage is 80%. So those of you that don't know what that means that 80% of the patient, of 80% of the 100 person, say let's see, hold on, blah blah blah, sorry. 100 he diagnoses 100 patients, 80 of those accept any type of treatment. Patient treatment dollar acceptance percentage is 71%. So that means out of those 80 people that accepted treatment, they are accepting 71% of that treatment in dollar wise. And then same day is 55%, which is amazing, which is of 100 people that come in that day, 55% of them accept treatment that day, whether getting done that day or it's scheduled. And those numbers are really high. And like I said, it's a team effort. So I'd love to know how, because in a practice that was as old as yours, that when you bought it, I'm sure that there's not, and I'm not trying to make generalizations here, but I'm sure that there's a lot of possibly underdiagnosing or something, or systems that are totally different and new to these patients. And I'm sure you've come up with a lot of roadblocks and objections to some of these. So I'd love to first know, what do you attribute to that awesome case acceptance? And then also, how do you overcome those objections in a practice such as yours?
I think what you said about having the whole team on board is absolutely one of the most important things, because I can say something and leave the room, and I turn to the hygienist or the assistant. Do you think I really need to get that done? Or, I know he said that, but what do you think? Like, well, yeah, if he recommended that, then that's what I would do. So I think that says a lot about trust and confidence between us as a team.
Mm.
And just relaying that confidence to a patient. And for us, I think also taking the time to explain what is going on with a patient makes a huge difference. And not just diagnosing something, telling them, you need a crown on these 3 teeth, they'll get you scheduled. You could do that, and I haven't really ever tried to do that, but to explain that and have them understand why we're recommending something or what could happen if they don't do the treatment that we recommend. I think that those are some of the big things that lead to our patients accepting treatment. Is just taking time and slowing down to kind of relay that. So rather than squeezing in, one more hygiene appointment in the day to get the production up some minimal amount, or you could take an extra 10 minutes and explain it to somebody and have them actually accept treatment. I think that's something that we do well. And what was your second question?
Yeah. Oh, no, we'll go into it. No, I just want to follow up to ask, I guess, a follow up because, and those of you that have listened to the show before, every time anytime I talk with anyone, actually, it doesn't matter what metric it is. The idea of spending more time with your patients while they're in your chair, it seems to be directly correlated. We're talking causation. I don't have data behind this. Okay. I just have the amount of people I've talked to so far, which is quite a few, that it really does make a difference in the amount of treatment that is accepted, which then also makes your production per hour better, your production per visit, your production per day, then your collections and it just trickles down. So I love that you brought that up because taking time, because it's really easy to just slip somebody else in there or to have the idea of, a 30-45 minute hygiene appointment or a new patient exam that has 20 minutes with you only, or, things like that. Because you're just trying to optimize your time during the day. But I just think that that's awesome that you have correlated the treatment acceptance percentage to the amount of time you spend with people in the chair.
And I think most of us probably went into dentistry to help people. And I think most of us want that. And unless patients understand that, they don't get the investment all the time.
Right. I think a lot of doctors would, if you spend an hour talking about something and you get, a couple crowns scheduled as opposed to 20 minutes and you're doing class 2s all day, that sounds like the worst. I'm not a dentist, but I wouldn't want to do class 2s all day. So
yeah. Or, I don't know how many times I've had a friend from somewhere else say, I just went to the dentist, for the first time in however long, or for the first time, and they gave me this treatment plan for $15,000. Do you think I need to do this? I'll take a look at it, and you probably do need it done. But if nobody told you why, why would you go back? I don't blame them at all
for wanting a second opinion.
For wanting a second opinion. If all they heard or all that was communicated was you need $15,000 worth of, or $6,000 worth of dental work, and they don't really know why.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I just had a thought of, don't be the practice that when the patient leaves, they get a second opinion because they don't understand why they
Yeah,
need treatment. Yeah.
but it just goes all kind of all back to time, and I think sometimes the enticing option would be to get as many people in the door as you can, and that's where you think that you're going to be the most profitable.
Yeah.
But if you can take a step back, you're going to go a lot farther than what you would have imagined.
Sure. Yeah. Awesome. Really good. The other question I had for you that followed up was just, and it's probably just because you're taking the time with them to overcome some of these objections, because some of these people you're introducing new things to them that they've probably never heard of before. So
Yeah.
if there's ideas or verbiage or something that you could help to somebody that's in your situation, that's taken over a practice, that is struggling to get stuff accepted.
Oh, I remember your follow-up of 40
Yeah.
years of one
Yeah.
way of treating somebody, and then somebody that graduated,
Mhm.
I graduated from dental school 9 years ago.
Yeah.
But for, like you said, some patients, when you say this is what we would like to do, and they've either never heard of that, or, well, that's not the way that, the previous dentist or doctor did this. And I think for me, all of the new technology and education is either something I've learned or bought or implemented to make things safer for the patient, more efficient, or more cost effective. So how many times have a patient come in and I say, well, this would be a great spot for an implant, and they'll say something like, well, aren't those like $8,000? I'm like,
No.
I don't think so. Or something along those lines. Like, we had a patient that hadn't ever really been in for hygiene or preventive care ever, and we wanted to take x-rays and do an exam, and he thought it was going to cost $3,000. So it's hard sometimes when patients come in and they see, an intraoral scanner or a cone beam or something, a Cavitron. Like, well, all that stuff's expensive, or,
Yeah.
Well, all we're really trying to do is help you get this care done better, more efficiently, and more cost effectively. And yeah, I think those are the types of things that I've tried to relay to patients. We don't do implants because we want to charge you $6,000. We do implants because we want you to get it done here, not to go anywhere else. And we can do
Use your mouth
it.
again.
Yeah, we can change. It might be a little bit dramatic, but change your life in
No, I don't think
a
so.
lot shorter time than
Yeah.
what you may think.
Yeah, I don't think you should. Don't undersell what you're doing. You change life. You can change a life if you can't eat very well. It's a life-changing thing for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, seriously. I can't, these hours go by so fast. This has gone by so fast.
It's been an hour.
I know. I did want to ask, because we already touched a little bit on like getting your schedule filled, so we'll kind of bypass that. I do want to know, because um automation, like, and processes, it sounds like you're really good at like kind of implementing them and seeing like what's worked. I want to know how, I mean, people, it's kind of a new thing. People are trying to like automate their practice as much as can, especially because we've had such staffing shortage. They're trying to like
Hmm.
automate whatever they can and still have it be a very personal experience in a practice. So
Yeah.
what does automation look like for you in your practice, and how has it helped?
Yeah, I do think that's a fine line between never having any
Yeah,
human contact until you get here,
yeah,
um, and not feeling like, you know, you just put my number into a, computer and it sends me all these things.
yeah.
Um, but as we've grown, time for anyone to get things done during the day seems to disappear very quickly.
Mhm.
And automation we're still learning ways to get time back throughout the day. And I think that started with patient reminders or um, messages for patients that are past due on their hygiene. The payments has been a huge time saver. And uh, follow-ups is just something that we're still working on a lot. I don't know if that's necessarily automation with patient contact, but automation to, you don't have to go looking for what you need to focus on for the day. If you go into follow-ups, here's your list of 15 or 20 patients that this
Right.
needs to get done today.
Yeah.
And then being able to have that short list of patients to call or text or email, all of that saves so much time throughout the day. And we're still running short on time. And we have an extra administrative person up front too. So we would not be able to be where we are and continue to grow without being able to do more efficiently or in less time.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. I want to, before I ask you this last question, I want to back up a little bit to payments. I don't think we talked about that before. And that's one of those things that people are just like the early adopters have adopted payment solution, but for those that aren't, like, they're starting to toy with the idea of accepting like a payment solution or text to pay or whatever. So especially in your area where it's pretty rural, you think that it wouldn't go over as well as maybe an urban area. So I'm interested to know about your experience with payments. And when we say payments, I'm assuming you're using our engagement solution in Modento or engagement, or are you using it in analytics, dental intelligence, or are you using
It
it for payment?
is through analytics
Okay. Yep.
because the payment page is on the DI page.
Yeah, well, we have two. We've got another one on the other side. So, and other way.
Yeah,
But awesome. So tell me a little bit about how that's working for you.
it is surprisingly, I think I gotta plug my computer in here.
Oh, you're good.
It's one of those things that's kind of one of those limiting beliefs. Like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna work
Mm,
where we are. And then you try it or start doing it, and patients respond much better than you think. Where, like you said, we're more rural, but if you have to drive, if people still drop off their payments, you're not
mhm.
going to drive, or you have to put it in the mail or do whatever. Um, it's been much more I would say their percentages of collecting payments through that are still lower than what I would like, but
Mhm.
it's getting better. And
Okay.
one of the nice things is that you can see when you call a patient and they see it's your number and they owe you money,
Yeah,
they're
right.
probably not going to answer.
Mhm.
And or they don't, they have the opportunity to not answer. You send them a text message and you know
Mhm.
that it was seen and they still
Okay.
haven't paid.
Yeah.
It's kind of an extra layer of accountability and another thing that can kind of help us get those types of things wrapped up in a timely manner.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad that it's worked for you. It's people aren't, as especially as generations go on, people want to pay from their phone, and when they're, sitting down for a minute at night or whatever, there's a lot of people want to pay you. They can't because you're asking for payment and not a convenient time for them to pay you.
Right.
So yeah. Awesome. Well, it's been such a blast. Thank you for taking time on this Friday evening for you to join. This last question is important to us because growth means a lot to us at Dental Intelligence, and it means something different to everyone. So, what does growth in dentistry mean to you?
Growth in dentistry, I think that as patients become more aware of what's possible in dentistry and how what we do is not confined to how pretty your smile looks all the time, but like I see this going on. I think there's something else, like health wise, that we could help you with, and getting away from that mentality that it's everything feels fine. You know, I don't know if I need to come in, but we're actually here to help your mouth. Yes, but we are also here to know a lot more about your whole body and your health, overall health, than what you might think.
Yeah.
And I think as that becomes more known
Mhm.
by patients, um, that's a huge step in the right direction for dentistry. And I hope, kind of paradoxically, that leads to less
Yes.
dentistry. Like if we were here, if all I did was exams and we had two hygienists, like that would be, I'd essentially be out of a job. But that's what we're here for. I mean, it won't ever happen that way, but I think doing less dentistry, um, more conservative dentistry that's safer, more efficient, uh, is not going to break, a patient's bank to get the care that they need.
Yeah. I love that answer. I mean, it sounds a lot like what my dad used to say, because if just flossed every day and be out of a job, but but
Yeah,
really, and I do, I feel the same way. I feel like the general public is starting to become more aware of how important oral health is to the whole body. And also, I mean, if you've spent any time being a clinician, how many times have you diagnosed something that was not or related to the oral health?
yeah,
Geez, I had somebody come in and I diagnosed celiac disease. I was like, maybe you should go see your doctor. And then she called me 2 weeks later. I have celiac disease. How did you know that? I'm like, that's what we're
yeah,
trained for, you know?
yeah. Or like just getting that conversation started, that you've come in here for the last 18 months and something that is not normal, something else is going on, please,
Go see your
you know,
primary care physician.
go see your physician.
Yeah.
Get that checked out, because your mouth is suffering for something else that's going on in your body.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think one of the big things that really makes me feel good is like seeing kids that have a breathing or airway issue. And I'll say, have you had their tonsils and adenoids checked, or have you had this looked at? And we'll send a referral to an ENT. And I mean, there's been a number of times that that's happened. And then the next time they come in, a mom or dad will say, yeah, they had their tonsils and adenoids out, and they're like a completely different kid.
Yeah.
And they sleep and they feel better. And
Focus
like
better.
I didn't even do anything. And that's a huge win for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. We do have such an opportunity to make impact in the community around us because they do see us more often than their physician. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. It's been a pleasure. And I'm sure that it's been very helpful for those that listen to the show. So this has been Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast. Again, special thanks to our guest, Dr. Ben Iske from Bridgeport Family Dental there in Nebraska. If you're ever there, stop by. I'm sure you'd love it.
We'll have you anytime.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you to our marketing department as well for all their work on this podcast. I'm Katie Pilson. Keep growing.